All right, I guess we're ready to call this meeting to order for the
Yep.
Old Saybrook Parks and Rec Commission. And first on the agenda is approval of the minutes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the June 11th, 2025 regular meeting minutes of the Old Saybrook Parks and Rec Commission with the following changes. 7A. The second sentence should say she shed versus she shad.
Okay, so a typo.
7C. Sentence 2 should say peace pole versus people.
What number is that?
7C, Charlie.
Rotary Club East Pole.
Okay.
And
Pole.
pages 2, 3, 4, the header should say
Oh, yeah, I didn't do the better.
11th versus January.
Wow.
Wow.
That wasn't a heat.
I hope you
Must have been
people
really
agree.
good as the highlights. Remember that, Maggie? You remember that?
Am I goofus or gallons?
All right, so we have,
And
I'll-
a motion.
I'll second what he said.
all right, so Jim made the motion with the corrections, seconded by Jane. Any discussion? I have one. Speaking of a motion that was, I think deleted, I made a motion to accept the concession for Harvey's Beach. I believe Jim made the motion, and I believe Star, did you second it? Star seconded it. So we need to put in that omission.
So was a motion to approve the Sandbar Grill?
Yes,
Okay.
Where is that?
So did we?
I think I'm saying.
That's
to the-
the
So we did vote
I
on
know,
that?
but I don't know if there was a second.
I believe Star made the second. Shall we verify that vote on the recording? I just think it was just an omission because I
I think we
know
voted on it.
we voted on it.
Sure.
Okay.
I remember the whole, yeah.
I
And I
remember
remember we
that.
had a discussion. I wasn't sure if we had to vote on it.
I thought it was appropriate because we voted on the shoe shed company and now we needed to vote on.
Okay, I'll go back and
See it
look. I
later.
don't know why.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, of course.
Any other discussion? How do we do that? Do we amend the men?
No, you just already did it.
Okay.
Discussion.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
It's hearing no discussion, all in favor of accepting the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstentions?
I'll abstain.
All right, one abstention. I'd like to recognize all the guests here. Thank you for coming. We appreciate you being here at our meeting tonight. Any correspondence?
Yes. Each and every year, we receive a grant from the Community Foundation of Middlesex County. In the generosity of the M. Jones Family Fund, in the amount of $1,000, they give us a grant to give kids the opportunity to get into our camp. So we received that grant this year, the last week. Hoping this to New Jersey.
Yeah.
Put that in there.
Any other correspondence?
Thursday.
Review with the bills then? Thank you for this. I like the layout.
Well,
Again, your fiscal year, right?
Just to clarify here, Ray, because some of the things are truncated, page 3, the pavilion. Item number 3, Southern Connecticut, that a power bill?
that's gas.
Yeah.
We're not paying for this week.
Yeah.
What's the gas for? Is that for heating or something? Or a small bill? Yeah, there's, yeah, moderate.
Any other questions? None, thank you. So now we come to the part of our agenda where we have the public can make a comment. Anyone from the public here who would like to make a comment?
Sure.
I see Colin.
Hi, my name is Colin Heffernan. I live in town. And I would like to make a comment regarding my support of exploring having a nurse at our summer camp programs. Recently come to my attention that we don't actually have a nurse available at our summer park programs, and I would think that would be something that we should at the very least look into. I was a little surprised to find out that we don't have a nurse. I understand we don't need a nurse because we're not accredited and we don't have to be accredited. That came up at the legislative session this year. But just because we don't need something doesn't mean that shouldn't be something that we explore is my thought. You know, I understand if there are children who can't go to a summer camp program because they might need medicine that needs to be administered by a nurse. And that keeps them out of the program, which I think is sort of unfortunate in a general thing. And that number of students who need some sort of medication application grows, year by year, it seems. So I'd like to maybe explore getting a nurse to have those children be able to come and enjoy camp, but also just because I think it adds a level of safety that I think a lot of parents would feel more comfortable with having, a trained nursing staff available for our camp system. I understand that will come with a cost, and that an exploration as to what exactly that cost would be on a per camper basis would be appropriate. I'd also be curious to know what the offset against that cost would be for our insurance premiums. I imagine that the camps are covered by liability insurance, and I would imagine that one of the discounts that would be available would be if there's medical staff on the grounds of the camp, that would probably result in a reducing our insurance our insurance deductibles. So that is something that I think we should probably look into. Another cost saving factor would be that under our current system in Old Saybrook, medical emergencies are handled by police, fire, and our EMTs. If something is beyond the ability of in-house staff to handle at any of our camps, we'll be leaning on police response, EMT, fire response to handle that. I think there might be a gap in between what our park and rec staff can handle and what a EMT would be required for that could be filled by a school nurse, someone of that capacity to help with those areas. So I think there might be some sort of countywide cost savings for that as well. So I understand that would have to be, our budget is passed for this year. Camps are underway. It's not something that we can do this year. But in the future, I think it should be explored both in terms of necessity, in terms of value add, and in terms of savings to help offset the cost. So that's what I'm here to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I have my back to this young lady here, so if you wanted to
Yeah.
speak, please do. But
Yeah.
and for our records, your name.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Kaufman, also a longtime resident of town.
Excuse me, Melissa, what's your last name?
Fountain. First name Alyssa.
Yeah, Melissa, that's what I said.
Alyssa.
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 I am, my family is one that is directly impacted by not having a nurse or qualified medical staff for the summer camp. I'm a single mom with 3 kids. My youngest has type 1 diabetes, so he is effectively excluded from being able to be here. Because I am a single parent, that means my other children also cannot attend camp here. I can't be in 2 places at once for drop off, so that forces me to seek outside private camps that are nearly double, sometimes even triple the cost of what it would cost here. I am also under the average income for the town of Old Saybrook, which means that I am a lower income family that now cannot take advantage of the lower cost of being here at the camp. So really, families like mine are the ones that are directly absorbing the cost of not having staff here that is trained to take kids like mine. I would gladly pay a little bit more per week for my children to be able to attend here versus being able to go somewhere else that's a lot more money. So I do hope that you take it into consideration, because the people that we are trying to accommodate are also the ones that are still effectively absorbing the cost of not being able to be there because of the lack of qualified medical care.
Thank you. I see other people there. Anybody else like to speak at this time? Sharon, way over there, thank you.
Rachel Durante. I'm also a mother of two children here in Saybrook who have attended the Park and Rec camp for the last several years. While they do not have any specific medical needs where they would need to receive medications or things, I know that when they are in the public school system, they are frequent flyers at the nurse's office. They're athletes, they are constantly getting pretty significant scrapes and issues that really would be beyond the capability of the camp staff to address. Which would mean I would have to come and pick them up. I had to pick up my daughter, my son quite a lot, because they can't be treated by a nurse. Just in support as well of turning away to have a full-time nurse on staff.
Thank you. And anyone else in the corner, or if I'm ready that I cannot see? Seeing none, we'll go on then to new business. Clark Community Park Concept Plans discussion.
All right, as you have in front of you in a large packets are 4 concepts, really 2 concepts, but there's 4 different ways to look at it. As we discussed last meeting, there were some discussion on whether or not a larger field could fit. So I had them put in both a larger soccer field / lacrosse field and a 2 smaller ones to show the 2 different ways that could fit in there. The 2 different concepts with the softball field.
Right, can you talk a little louder, sorry about that.
No, the adult softball field turned as opposed to turned in the north direction as opposed to the south direction. So 3A is the original concept that we had discussed. 3B is the original concept with the larger soccer field. You can clearly see it in the middle there. 4A is the concept that Lily had forwarded to this commission a few months ago. That is now on paper here. And 4B is the same concept with the larger soccer field that possibly could fit. If you're looking at both concepts, the green area up at the top of the concept is the trees that would have to be removed regardless of what concept you're going with. I know Sue had asked the question on concept 4, what's the distance that's now covered? It's about 25 feet or so that goes into the wood line with concept 4. Don't know what that would trigger as far as an inland local wetland review. I just don't know at this point in time what that would trigger. So, but something certainly to consider and look at. But with both concepts, the fields that we wanted to look into having there, full size and or U12s do fit. So, this is from Jacobson. They've done their research, they've done their due diligence, and basically it's in your court. And I'm here to try to answer questions.
Regardless of what we do, we still need to review it with inland wetlands.
Well, that would be
Still
down
concerned with-
down the line though. Because it's not even sure that it would trigger a review, because we're already within the 100-foot regardless right now. So that would
Taking down trees and having trees stand.
totally understandable, absolutely sure, I agree with that 100%. But that's not something that is done now.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that is one of the steps that we have to keep in
Yeah.
mind that we would
Oh,
have.
absolutely.
So the green stuff is, the green indicates trees that need to be removed.
So the green is existing, well, first of all the X's that you see on there are trees that are gonna be removed anyway.
Right.
The green area would be, if you're thinking of Town Park now, we're closest to Town Park to the wood line that side, that'd be an additional area that needs to be removed anyway. The trees that are along the driveway, we're gonna remove anyway, regardless. And
Along the driveway, that's.
Yeah,
kind of
by the
opposite
pond.
whole-
But over here, yeah, all those access,
Yeah.
those are
Like the
getting
picnic.
removed anyway, so.
Like the picnic. area
Correct,
that-
correct. But now, even with concept 3 or 4, there are some trees that need to be removed anyway.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit more in concept 4.
And some of these might be the beech trees that are stuff like.
Some of the trees are not worth
Well,
anything.
there are many-
There are some that are just.
conifers, conifer trees that are damaged anyway, and they're very sick, and they're not gonna be growing well.
Correct.
So those would have to be weeded out in a normal instance. The, has red berries and the birds love to eat it in the fall,
Okay, all right.
and it's a woodland tree.
So the. The question that I don't, or the situation that I'm not sure about is. How important the lacrosse field is in terms of the size of the lacrosse, like if you look at 4A. We're getting, that's 2 lacrosse fields. For what level of play?
Essentially U12, so. It's more like the side, it's more soccer than lacrosse in those 2 fields per se. But you have to remember, just because the concept shows that you can put 2 fields, doesn't mean that we're gonna put 2 fields there. Right, so right now at Town Park, we have the ability to put 1 field there if we wanted to make it a little bigger. We just don't have that choice because we need both of those fields for the amount of people that need to play on it. So we,
Well, wait a minute, because what you just said, it was confusing. You said, right now, we only have 1 field because.
no, we have 2 fields now because we need both those fields that we use.
Are you talking about for baseball?
For baseball and for
Baseball.
soccer, and for soccer in the fall. So, but we don't have to put both fields up. We can just make 1 if we wanted to and make it a larger field. It's just to show you that they could fit either way that we wanted to do it. Whether we want to do 1 large field, which is over 300 feet,
Right,
or 2 smaller fields.
okay,
They both can fit regardless. That's why we did it like this, because that was one of the questions that we had last month. Whether or not that larger field that we really wanted could actually fit with the new design that was there.
so 4A and 4B shows that we could, well,
We could fit
neither
both.
one of, well. It doesn't, 4B doesn't show a full-size lacrosse field.
It does. That's the 300-foot field. See where it says 300 by 180, it just didn't put across there. It just-
Okay, all right, so this is, all right, well, that's what I'm trying to understand.
Okay.
So this would be the true lacrosse size area.
Correct. Just about the true cross size, I mean, give or take 5 yards or there, we'll be fine with that.
Okay, and Ferry Road is getting done, and that's going to be, that would be able to be used for lacrosse.
It's small, it's essentially smaller than the 240 by 180.
But could they practice there? or-
They do not,
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
And it'll be better.
yeah, well, yeah. It'll be better.
Yeah,
It better be.
well, yeah,
When Fitzgerald and all they do the proposal, they changed the direction of softball. Remember that?
The original.
Yes, when they came back. So the company we outsourced began the strategic plan. They came back with the original one, which was mirrors. The original here, the first one. And they changed the locations of the softball field. For a reason. It was because of sunset. There was something, I wish I remember, but it was in the original.
It could have been sun going in.
There was a reason why they suggested that this one and this first one is the one that we sent off to get done. The top one, because of that location of that, so yeah.
I think it was partly that and partly because of the tree line.
Yeah, so we wouldn't have to eliminate since,
That was
Yeah.
part of it.
so that was a big part of that. Yes, and they did that, I remember him the presentation, it's like a big, because we asked why do they choose to do that? I remember, and that's the original, so that's why this one was that. The first one.
Right.
Okay, I was just making sure that.
Any quick question?
Hi, Brandon was from Old Saybrook Little. If you're wondering about sun direction, we have plenty of coaches here that play on both those fields on a per game basis. And the sun is not an issue.
It's not pretty.
We play all times of day on Saturdays and Sundays and nights. And we have adult softball players here too. That's the sun direction. I don't think that would be the issue. If I were to guess,
think they did when they presented us. I mean.
this one.
It's basically right here.
Yeah, this feels the
Top part
this
is
feels
gonna get
terrible.
cleared back 25 feet.
Correct.
But that is one.
So we're gonna see a different, like, different.
You'll see a different tree line. You can't go too far
Right.
back
So,
anyway back there, but yes, that'll be, that's the part, yes. That would be really.
That one.
Right. Because if you go more than 25, yeah, I don't think you go more than 25 feet. There's a large ditch at that. That's a drainage ditch, so you can't even go farther back, so.
So Susan, my impression is that 4A is somewhat equivalent to 4B in that, Ray had said that you could either do the two smaller U12 fields or the larger full-size soccer / cross field in the empty space between, so. And I'm assuming that, you can play simultaneous games on either of those in soccer season. And in the past, I mean, we've been using Town Park 1, I should say, way in the past when I was a coach, not when these guys were coaches. We've used, both Town Park 1 and Town Park 2 for Little League softball and Little League baseball concurrently. That's not a problem. And I don't foresee any instances where we would have an adult-sized softball game going on at the same time. We'd have a Little League game. Otherwise, notwithstanding tournaments or something like that, but we can always schedule around that. And there's many other adult softball fields, Trask, and sometimes the middle
Different
school
seasons anyway.
where the kids softball. Yeah, so I don't see any overlap there. And the question then becomes, option 3 or option 4, in which we do have a Little League, diamond where Town Park 1 is, or we don't. And I'm inclined to say that we should include the, Little League diamond, because whether or not the enrollment in Little League is going up or going down, this is the point that we have to make a decision that drives the rest of the path of the construction here. So I'd be more inclined to put it in now and not need it, as opposed to not have it, and then the softball field is rotated 90 degrees, and you would not be able to put a Little League field in at some later date if enrollment skyrocketed in Leisure.
Thank you for mentioning
Like
that.
your sense.
It was something that was on my mind. I mean, to me, 4A and 4B, it becomes an issue of use. And that's where our director and the programs that we provide to dictate whether we're gonna have 2 smaller fields, youth fields, or 1 huge adult lacrosse field. And we can change that at any time at our discretion, depending upon the programs.
Sure.
So that, to me, is more of a cosmetic thing. I mean, we reline fields all the time for the use. So that doesn't bother me. But what you brought up was what I was looking at, just as you were saying, was the fact that it's a Little League softball field. And I believe with the increase in female athletes in this town, that we may be leaving that in the future into penny wise and how foolish. I'd rather spend the money now than not spend so much money later.
Right. I agree with all you said. I love the Little League field being there. My only concern is seasons from lacrosse and Little League 2 overlap.
Okay,
That's my only concern. I think it's a scheduling problem that we can certainly work our way through. But that's really the only concern I can see. But I think the 4 concepts, number 4 concept, A or B, whatever you want to endorse, I would be totally fine with it. And I think it'd be a great way to move forward.
please give us time as a commission to do our stuff and then I'll recognize you. Thank you. So, yeah, that's also a concern that I was looking at too. Rest of the commission here, so overall, is this answering some of the questions that you had last month and the month before?
I think it outlines everything a lot better. these plans are a lot easier to understand, sure.
Like the crayon ones.
And, you know, yeah, it makes it a lot more tangible. I think I'm a little nervous about, the adults playing on the full-size ball field and making sure that we've got safety netting, you know, for fouls and stuff.
It obviously won't show them this, but when you move forward with the actual bid process, all those things will be in there.
Yeah.
And there is a fence that does go around the whole field for safety aspects as well. Not a fence for each field, but you can see it on here,
A fence or a net?
a fence. So you can see a fence already, it says, car protection fence required on this side.
Okay,
That's if you follow that line, that goes all the way around the whole.
yeah. What does that look like, though? You know, in terms of like its aesthetics, you know, is it,
It's required.
I mean, is
Really
it,
no way around it.
okay,
It's just,
yeah, I get it. I'm just, you know, trying to feel.
I agree with you. Fences.
And is it 4 feet high or
That's not decided yet, you know. It's just
Okay.
showing that it's there.
is there probably a regulation as to how high it is?
Well, 4 would be the minimum, so.
But it's gonna be, you know, fencing like typical.
It says 10 feet.
No, that's speeds, every 10 feet.
Oh,
So small, it's like,
oh, those little tiny exits are all, no, those.
no, on your plans.
Oh, I see.
You can put all the, you
Yeah.
can put all the exits in there, but he
Yeah.
said gates every 10 feet, because it's, think about Town Park now, it's a long distance down the driveway, you need to have multiple access
Yeah.
points.
There's no fence down there now,
There's not, no.
Yeah. so that's gonna be a big
Built
change.
in 1971,
Yeah.
couldn't require it.
Right, yeah, well, there's some nice
There's lots of
boulders.
boulders there.
Yeah.
There are, and I remember
I
Jim
think my van
taking
has
a
one
couple
of
of
them.
leaps over them when he hit his balls long.
Yeah,
But, my concern is, I like the overall layout and everything, but being absolute tree hugger. We're taking down a heck of a lot of greenery here, and we're supposed to be working with our, tree warden and with our, interested, residents for Saybrook Shade. I think we need to have a lot of consideration here, because that's gonna be not only a huge dollar value of cutting down these trees, which most of them by the lake, I will say, are not that big around. There are a few, but not that many. Most of them are dogwoods and what I call sucker trees. They're just not really doing anything, but how are we gonna plant? To save shade, I mean, it is a park.
So to answer the tree, just so everyone knows what we're up against. Trees in general that are gonna be removed are 115 or so. The additional trees with concept for 25.
Any idea what kind of trees they are, like, are they, you know,
In that area, there's a few oaks, there's a lot of big places.
There's
It's not.
dogwood,
but
there's oaks,
that are gonna be planted in new, or is this to be kept?
No, you have to get rid of them to have the field.
Okay, oh, no, I'm talking about like,
in the play area.
no, with the play area. I'm just hoping we have some shade structures.
Yeah.
Kind of like a grass or
Yeah.
whatever. But in terms of like, are we doing some picnic stuff over here?
We're supposed to,
Yeah, the pavilion, Snapchat.
we're supposed to have picnic
I
tables.
think from the road, if there's a road back there now. Right?
Yep.
From the road to the pond, all those trees are staying. From the road to the field, all those trees are going. That's how you have to look at it.
I'm looking at X's.
There's a couple of, in general, so there's a couple of, yes, you're right,
So
but
this is this kind of curvy edge here, and then where it's just white, the white part is the pond, right?
correct,
All right, and then there's gonna be trees
there's trees in there.
left there, yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Plenty of trees in there, yeah.
Back to Sue's point, so the first one, 3A. 12 feet, and then 4A is 25, is that what that number is, remove
Yeah.
3?
Well,
Okay.
that's 12 foot in that one
Yeah.
area to get that.
So
But
remove-
even by the way, in option 3A, if you count the number of trees in there that need to be removed.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So we're looking at an additional 11 trees that have to remove for concept 4.
And this is our premier sports park and we're trying to maximize space. I love trees, but.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, when you think of how many trees are in the whole park,
You gotta go count them.
it's a lot. I'm thinking this is just a
I
tiny,
think,
tiny bit.
there's a grant for counting trees and saying.
I mean, what's hard for me is when I go walking around, I mean, our neighborhood is just, even live with the beach, the beach trees are,
Beach Street disease.
Yeah,
Right,
the blight,
yeah.
yeah.
and so you just wonder how many of those with the beach ones.
Right
Gonna have
right
to
on
go.
the edge is hardly any beach, I know
Yeah,
that.
there's a lot of choke cherry there.
Yeah.
Especially along the driveway. There's a lot of dogwood just as it's entering into the play field over here. And there's a lot of, what calls swamp maple or red maple, red maple, but.
Not red.
It's it's not a sugar maple, but it's more of a swamp
You
maple.
replant the dogwood, I mean, they're tiny,
Well-
they're pretty small.
Well, these grew because we never pruned them right, so they grow towards the light. So the trunk is way over there
Yeah.
and the branches are way over here.
Okay.
So many of these trees are not good standard trees. I will admit that, even though I'm a tree hugger. And I look at them and say, no, we gotta thin those up, get those out. I'm fine. But our discussion is, we need to make sure that we take trees out, that we also plant as it is, even though as that said, you hope to have this as a premier sports area. It is also our forest. And to meld that together, not just have a road to say, okay, here's your sports, there's the forest. We want it to grow and be symbiotic
mean,
and
I mean, there's a lot of landscape options out there, I don't know what our budget is like.
Well, it's gonna be, no. Well, we don't know what budgets look like. There will be requirements for landscaping within the whole plan. That is, again, this is just the concept. Once we get farther into it. Once we get farther into it, we'll have every step, just like Ferry Road has 80 different line items of what's gonna be done there,
Yeah.
So that will be the same thing that you'll see in this, probably, 500 of those things.
Yeah. I don't see how we can get rid of the little league field. I don't know, is anybody at the table feeling like we should get rid of the little league?
I'd rather do fit
I'd rather get rid of
to-
trees and find her.
Yeah, and now that we know that that goes from south and south.
This is 50 years of trees without a haircut. Um,
no, it's true.
It's, I mean, when I was little playing on these fields, it was like, this was much more open and it's starting to overtake our fields.
Yeah.
And I think. We're taking down trees and I cannot, it's like. As a coach, as an athlete, I wanna see it open.
I'm somewhat of a tree hugger myself, but if we take into consideration all the trees that Rob and his team had to take out for the disc golf, and you see the benefits that the community and the people that are using that as an athletic field, I think it more than outweighs. I mean, there's still a lot of trees in Saybrook Grove, so what the Save Our Trees committee had told us before, it's just in different areas. Just as an aside, Sue, in thinking in the same vein as you are, is to try to save as many trees as possible. I played around with this at home, and if you take you've got 3B and 4A, and you rotate the adult softball field so that it's facing north, if you will, and the Little League field, so that's facing north. Problem with that's not gonna work because the skinned infield on the adult softball and the skinned infield on the Little League will not allow you to have an uninterrupted area of grass, which you need for lacrosse or soccer, unless you rotate it 90 degrees and the field is going north-south. However, if you do that, it becomes much longer and it extends into that drainage area way up north, and we definitely don't want to get into
No,
that
that's
kind of
therefore
situation. So I think
those
either
areas
3
of
or 4 are kind of the options that we need to make a decision.
Yeah. I agree. I just bring it up for discussion.
Either 3A or 3B, which has no Little League field and minimize tree removal for four, which is the Little League field, plus a little bit more tree removal up on the north side. Which is to say, rotating any of these fields won't really buy you any less trees getting cut
Yeah.
down, because you're cutting down a swath of trees in the middle of that area. If you wanted to run the soccer lacrosse field north-south. So I still stick with, that's 4A.
Yeah,
I don't think any of us are talking about either of the 3A or 3B options, right? I mean, have we ruled those out with because of the field?
I don't think anyone's not speaking. But obviously, we went with that option a few years ago. We thought numbers were down, right? So this is I love this plan, like I said. I think it does a lot for us. I love the fact that it brings a large playground in the front. We have a nice little pavilion area. It adds parking up there, which is desperately needed. And we'll keep our fields, and we add an adult softball field, which is desperately needed. I've received 2 phone calls today about teams that played on the middle school. Field last night that is just atrocious, so it's dangerous. You know, we need to have a
Yes.
dedicated adult softball.
That's the coach of that, I was, I guess, that it was.
Yeah, so I love the fact that this includes that, and we still are providing for Little League, which is needed in town, obviously, you know, they don't have a Little League complex, they need our fields, and this does that, and we do work with soccer and lacrosse if
Yeah.
needed, so I think this is a great concept.
So a lot of littles out there playing with this. In soccer, lacrosse.
I just think the fact that the playground where it would be during the Little League game, where parents would really love.
Yes. Yeah.
So our-
There's a lot we could do with that, a lot of room in the back.
so I think we're at the point here where we need to make a decision on which one we want to go forward with, because time is everything, and we know we do have to talk to several commissions in order to even do anything. So is there a consensus here that you are ready to make a decision on which plan you want? I will go around.
You want to ask is who knows, if they have a comment or
I
anything.
want to put a motion on the floor first and then enter into the discussion.
I will. We have a discussion, yes, I can do that, I can do that, I can. You notice that? So this is how we're going to do it, just to let you know. We're gonna put a motion on the floor, and anyone who's interested in speaking or has something to input on our plan here, I will give you a time to say that, and then we'll go on with the motion, okay?
So non-members are able to be part of a discussion on a motion?
Well, I can allow that.
You can?
Sure. There are experts in the fields that were.
I didn't think that was allowed.
Is there a rolled out too? There is.
Not really allowed, but you're the chairman, and if you decide that you wish to.
I think
take
at this
their
time,
comments,
I will hear from the experts after we make the motion.
You can do that.
I do caution you that it's not just commentary, but if you have something to bring in with your experience, then that's what I want to hear. Okay, so is there a motion on the floor?
I'll make a motion to move forward with the Lada PC design concept option 4A for Clark Community Park under the auspices of the strategic plan.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to accept what we have before us on option 4A. Is there a second?
I second.
The seconds, now for discussion, is there anyone who would like to include any of their experience under discussion? Seeing none, is there anyone on the commission here that has anything that they would like to discuss? Any other questions? You need anything to further identification? Jim?
I think we have some folks from the Little League here. I don't know personally, but I've been led to believe that you guys are indicating in terms of registrations that the participation is increasing over what it had been previously.
Yes, for the last 5 years, we've grown by 50%.
Okay.
That's across baseball and softball.
Okay. So it sounds like there is a need for additional Little League space. And if I am correct, the adult softball can also be used for Little League girls softball? Yes. Okay, just want to make sure the size is all appropriate for everything.
I'll just add for softball, literally, we went in 1 year from, I'm correct me if I'm wrong, but 3 to 5 softball teams in 1 year jump. And that was last year to this year, so we expect an additional team next year, so really have to guys, especially the softball, which is relevant. Speed softball.
What are you saying the average team size is?
We're around 9 to 11.
There's 134 kids registered for baseball and softball, we have 13 teams. Approximately 10 plus kids per team.
So, yeah, I don't know what one-
Do we still have intertown play? I know we used to with Westbrook.
We play across the entire district. Which encompasses up to 16 different towns, all of the districts in Idaho. We are playing against ourselves. Typically having 2 or 1 team, most of the districts if you ever play against each other.
Any other questions, discussion? Yes, Jake?
In light of what we've heard, that there's been significant scheduling issues with Little League this year already in softball. I feel like the commission would be making a pretty serious, decision, that would adversely affect the youth of the community. And I think it would be a pretty big problem to move ahead without that Little League bill. In everything that we've heard over probably the last 4 meetings, I think. It seems like, we've had, individuals presenting, their really big concerns and their struggles, even with the field that we already have, and taking that away is gonna make things even worse. So I don't see how the commission can feel like we're doing the right thing by moving ahead without this Little League bill. So I think we really have to make sure that it's included as we move forward. Regardless of what the strategic plan that we've done 4 years ago. Might have indicated.
So that would be include, I mean, this is what the motion is to accept this option with the Little League.
Yeah, no, I'm just, that's what I'm saying, is this is I'm supporting the motion, because I think if we were to go without, if we were to choose a plan that didn't accommodate this Little League field, I think that would be a grave error on the part of the commission.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of accepting the motion on the floor for option 4A, say aye.
I-
Any nays? Any abstentions? Okay, Ray, I believe we have our work before us. We need to go forward, whatever we need to do for this, absolutely. Okay, thank you. And thank you to our experts sitting here. We appreciate your time and letting us know some of the facts and figures. Okay, moving along, we have other business regarding programs, facilities, and personnel.
Thanks.
Last month, I believe that we had set a goal for August to talk about possibility of having nurses on our program. So Beth, I'm gonna let you do this. I believe that would fall under this new business, the first report on this.
Thank you. I worked with Jane and I tried to answer some of the questions that were addressed last meeting. About if we were to develop kind of a seasonal nurse concept for the Park and Rec department. And I talked to local mothers over the last 2 months in the community, and there has been overwhelming support for adding a nurse, medical administrator to the Park and Rec summer camp to allow all children, regardless of medical needs, to attend our local affordable camp. Local camps that do provide a nurse or a counselor trained to administer medication to children on staff. We have the YMCA camp on the Westbrook Saybrook border. That's $300 per week per child. They have a counselor who administers medication to children who has completed specific training through the state to do oral, topical, and injection type medications. In the month of July, Goodwin School here in town offers enrichment programs, which are $40 per week per child. If you get back-to-back sessions, that's 6 hours of care. But there's often, they fill up really quickly and there's usually a wait list. Local camps that do not provide a nurse on staff are municipal camps, Old Saybrook, Park and Rec, and as well, I reached out to Westbrook Park and Rec. So there were some questions about what the salary of a summer nurse would be. I looked at 2 current postings as of July 2025 that were on Indeed.com. One of them was local posting in New Haven for a school nurse. The rate of that was $55 per hour. There's a program called Outdoor Classroom in Deep River, and they have a current posting for a seasonal pediatric nurse, which is $38 per hour. For the calculations I'll mention below, I said $40 an hour. So, the current cost of park and rec camp for 1st to 4th graders is $130 a week. The new cost of 2026 camp per week, if including a full-time nurse, would be $142 roughly per week. And that breaks down to $48 per hour salary times 7 hours per day times 5 days per week, which comes to about $1,680 per week divided by roughly, again, you know better than me, right? But $130 to 130 campers per week, equaling a $13 per camper increase. I talked to the school nurse who currently works at Goodwin. She says on an average day, they administer inhalers and various medications. They see numerous sick visits throughout the day, along with recess, gym injuries requiring care. Injuries account for about half her visits to the office, and she sees an average of 30 to 40 children a day in the health office. Goodwin has roughly 420 students, applying this above average to 130 local campers. We could estimate that a park and rec nurse would assist roughly 10% of campers throughout the day for 13 children. I'm gonna go briefly over the local attorney because he was kind enough to speak earlier today. But he mentioned would insurance rate lower if we had a nurse on staff. Though the town is not required to have a nurse, as it is a Connecticut municipal camp. If there was an injury and a lawsuit was brought, the town would still be required to pay the legal fees. And this could affect insurance. If an injury occurred at camp, currently, we're relying on other town budgets to absorb the cost of any services needed. And just to round it up, the town is in the service business. Park and Rec camp is not a for-profit camp, but it should provide a service to all the children in the community. And a note on the cost increase of $13 per camper. Back in February of this year, this commission voted to increase the daily fees at Harvey's Beach by $5 per car per day. For an increase of roughly $13 per camper per week, we could allow all Old Saybrook children, including those needing medical assistance, to attend our safe, affordable municipal summer camp. And then I have 2 letters from mothers who were unable to attend tonight. That are also included in your packets. I don't know if this file is with Jerry or read them out loud. Down there, but I do.
I think, we should have put these on the correspondence.
There's anything on the packets?
For as correspondence, why don't we put it into the record? Go ahead.
The first one is from Jill Hartenstein.
Well,
Do you want me to?
I think we can read it, we'll give it to
We just
Jerry,
give it
you
to
can put
Jerry.
it into the.
Yeah,
record.
Right,
don't have to
but
read it.
email it to me, so I don't have to.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't think we need to read them all.
All
There
right,
is
thank you.
support of the nurse, that's all we need to
Yes.
say.
Yeah.
Yeah, they should have been public comment.
all right. Any questions so far? Go ahead, Jane.
Great, how many kids do we have on a typical day?
Max, the max we have is 7. Well, sorry, 85, I've got, that's what it's, so 130 weeks, just not the right number, but. Obviously, the math equates what he did there, so it's gonna be a little higher. well, $20 maybe. Gotta figure that out, so.
And that could also be because I talked to, which I brought up last month, a local per diem nurse who thought the average salary would be around $34 an hour. But this is just what it needed, add the $32 an hour. and then
They're gonna
it's hour.
vary, they're gonna vary depending on the campsite, whether who's advertising, how many people are gonna charge them, so. But the most we're gonna have in here would be 5 kids in a week.
So when you're having a trip. So when the older group might be doing a trip to Minnegoff, there's still kids also here on site.
Correct.
So if we're having a nurse on staff for the summer camps, does that nurse travel or is that nurse staying on site? Is that's like just something to throw out there for us to think about, is like if we're having a kid go, if we're having a group go to Brownstone.
Another great example, we had camp go to Mohegan today to watch the NWNBA.
So do
But
we
isn't
then,
that the older kids in a different building or are they all in the?
They're all in this building.
so then we have to think about,
So that when I say the 85 kids, that includes 3 different camps. We'd only have 50 kids in our 1st through 4th grade camp. Then we'd have a max of 25 in the older kids camp, which is 5th to 8th grade, and a max of 10, sometimes 12. We go 3 counselors with that for our little kids. So that they're all housed in the building. Yeah. That's when I say 85, that's kind of the max we have in here. But yes, they do different things at different days, at different times.
so that's something to think about, a day we're having a trip. If we have a couple of nurses that could possibly do it, one would be here and one would go, and then that would be an additional cost. Of $38, $50 an hour.
I think I spoken with Jane earlier too, and she mentioned that at the YMCA, this person who does it, please correct me if I'm wrong, talks to the individual families who need medical care when their kids are starting camp. So they just can develop plans. So it would probably depend on who's going where, what day, you know.
Then we'd be like
So,
focusing the nurse care on one group. So
If-
we have to provide it equal to every camper. We're gonna do something like this at all times.
Well, I think like, if I can weigh in on kind of what the discussion with Tony, Cirillo, who's the CEO at, the YMCA. Now, they have 120 kids on average there at the YMCA. And they don't have a nurse, they have a counselor that gets extra trained. So, and they have kids with diabetes, they have kids with asthma, they have kids on EpiPens, they've got kids that have medication that has to be, handled throughout the day. Are dealing with, have to meet with all the parents. So that counselor is not, that is somebody that's supervising kids throughout the day. And then is handling other responsibilities. So if a nurse wouldn't be a counselor, from what I understand. So it would, are we talking about having extra training for a certain number of our counselors so that they can administer medications? And, well, I think everybody has to.
Yeah,
Everybody can do it.
Every staff is recommend training.
Right, they're also.
They're all first aid and CPR trained,
Yeah.
Okay.
but no, they cannot administer medicines. They can't do injections there, even for kids who have to take some sort of pill throughout the day. The kids self-administer and we have to watch that. That's the. We have to watch the issue. Now, we meet with parents first, so actually bringing their stuff in, I'm like, oh, I gotta take this, certainly we meet.
And to express the field trips, my son has an inhaler. And correct me if I'm wrong, people, but when he goes on a field trip, his inhaler goes with them, the nurse doesn't go with them. So I think there are for field trips, there is a fluidness.
So as of right now, any meds that travel, they're locked twice. They're in a locked box. And then they're in another box that's locked, have to. So other kids can't get into it now, that should be. We have that on Sunday.
So I'm not sure what we're not doing right now that we need to change. You know what I mean? Because I don't think a nurse, when we talk about a nurse, that's a different thing than somebody who's trained by the state to administer medication so that any kid could come. Are we trying to say we want to be able to accommodate any kid that can come? Or are we saying we have to have a nurse because we want that for our town? I guess that's what I'm asking you.
So part of that question, part of your answer is type of camp that. Right, so You know, this is a thing from state. I know you guys all know about it, but there are certain camps that go overnight. You know, there are certain camps that are state camps that are licensed as a privately held. Those all have to go through the education department to get their licensure. And they're required to have certain things, which would be a nurse or whatever else they're required to have. Whereas every municipality in the state is exempt from that. Why is that? I don't know. That's been a rule in the state of Connecticut forever, right? And we've just all been exempt from it. They certainly tried to change that, but we certainly provide, as recreation professionals, this is part of what we do every day, right? And so we do provide a lot of training for the staff, but what type of training were you talking about that they give extra for the kids? Like, I'm kind of confused.
I think there's a counselor that gets extra training for
Is it
for
like-
medication administration.
So is that like a 10-hour
I could be wrong.
class? Or
No, it's like a half hour. Yeah, it's like one half hour training. That's I mean, I definitely think it would be, you know, if you want to go down this path, if that's what we choose, I think you should talk to Tony. I don't know why we would provide more than what the YMCA is providing. That's what I'm not sure what, you know, especially when we're literally next door to the fire department. If a child, let's say, you know, God forbid, somebody falls and breaks their arm. A nurse is gonna call 911. A counselor's gonna call 911, you know.
I will give you that example. Back at the middle school, before we had this building, we had a child break her arm. She actually worked for us the last couple of years, but yeah, you're right. I provided the care. We were trained for first aid and CPR. Call the parent, determine that we need to get an ambulance there and call the ambulance.
And there are some times where you go right to 911.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you don't call the, you know. You call 911, then the parent, and then there's times where you call the parent, and
And do I agree a nurse would be very helpful on staff for those parents that need to administer a shot or need to provide other medication? I think that'd be great. I really do. I just don't know the logistics of having a nurse here, paying them. Just call it $2,000 a week, but what are they doing for that whole time, you know?
Well, I think like the comments from the Goodwin nurse, roughly she'd be seeing 10 to 13 kids, and we
Yeah.
joke, our kids are frequent flyers, and there's.
Go
My
ahead.
son was at camp last week, he hurt his knee, he
Yeah.
didn't tell anybody, but if a nurse was here, he would have gone and got a hug and a Band-Aid. And I just think it's another highly qualified, understandable to small children, adult who can help in an emergency, help with medication, like my husband, or excuse me, my son has asthma. And when it's affecting him, he'll say it's heart hurts. And he knows to go to the nurse and say that, but is he gonna tell the 14-year-old he just met? Probably not. So I just think it's an added layer of safety that every parent I've talked to in Saybrook.
Did you ask these, well, I don't know where you went with some of the research. Does this nurse have their own office? Do they provide their own medical equipment? Do we have to provide over the top medical equipment? What do we have to have? I mean, if you need oxygen, where are we storing that? You know, I don't know where that
Sure, the
entails.
Goodwin nurse.
But they have their own little room. We don't have that. We don't have another space.
Set up a little.
That would count.
I look at this and you gave an example, and I'm not picking on you, but just trying to get it level in my head. If the Goodwill School has approximately 420 people, students. And yes, I agree, I've been in the Goodwin School and I have seen that revolving door like forever when I was doing vision screening for kids. I am amazed at the patience that the nurse has. But my question is, you know, if we only have 85 campers. And what Ray was trying to say is how many hours are we just paying someone to sit at a desk without any interruption or interface with a camper? That's, you know, I mean, in my heart, I'll say, yeah, safety, 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 everything that is safe, but it comes down to how often is this going to be used?
I would,
And especially with the 911 issue that was not an issue, but concern. If we have a doubt, we call 911 and they're here immediately. So I'm not saying this is a done deal. I'm saying we do need to do more research. And we definitely have to do how to do the funding. And like I said, there may be grants out there for medical personnel for small towns. I don't know.
I would love to talk to more licensed camps that are required to have nurse on staff, to see what that person, where their storeroom is, what do they have to have on site, what do they have to have refrigerated, what, I mean,
Yeah,
those are things that are big deals. That this building would not be able to support if they had their own office. I mean, yeah, that office would be perfect for a nurse. That already houses someone, that's their office. Not building another room somewhere right immediately to do this, so where's all this stuff going?
I think you've done excellent, you and Jane. Thank you very much for your time. This is a great start. This really gets my mind working on various levels, but we need to keep going. Sorry, I saw you. So
Yeah, the only thing I want to know a little more about too is municipalities. Like, I know you're comparing us to, you know.
Well, I think they're not
Well,
required to, so they're not.
Right, so has anyone asked for it? Has any
169
director?
towns in Connecticut, municipalities in Connecticut, I venture to say that 0 have a nurse on staff. I can't say that for a fact, but I would venture to say that.
I would also like to change the misconception. I don't think a nurse would just be sitting around looking for something to do. I would assume if you are looking for employment at a summer camp, probably enjoy children. You're probably gonna be interacting, building relationships, and therefore you will not only be helping the children, but you'll be helping everyone.
I mean, I would love to have, quote, nurse, maybe it's a different name, but to have that as a counselor that also does that.
Absolutely.
That would be
There, so
ideal.
people understand.
That would,
That's what I'm saying, the Y is doing. They have a counselor that's, they're not a nurse, they're not an RN, they're not an LPN, but they've had the training to do whatever kind of medication and insulin and, you know, so that no child is turned away based on a medical condition from the Y. And so so they're able to accommodate every child that applies. And they work with that family, you know, so there's a meeting with the family to say, okay, this is, you know, the insulin levels that they're looking at, and you need to check his monitor every 3 hours or whatever, or after lunch, or I don't know. You know, it's gonna be different for every child. So they're able to, you know, to get this special, you know, to take on every situation. So I think that would be what we would aspire to, I would imagine, and when you talk about, you know, certainly my son Peter worked here, and there were plenty of kids that ran right to him when they had you know, a cut on their knee and had to calm them down. You know, I mean, the kids all have their favorite counselors that they run to when they're upset about something or just sad, have a bad day and have to be cheered up, and, you know, based on the counselors, they respond. You know, I think the counselors are trained to be that person. I think when we use the term nurse, I don't know if that's the specific term that parents are wanting, a true nurse that has a nursing degree that's gonna come and work here.
Everyone I
Versus,
spoke to loved the idea of a nurse.
yeah, and so a nurse, but if we said, hey, we have, every counselor is trained in EpiPens and CPR.
Yeah.
Every single counselor is trained on that every year.
Yeah.
Every year, so before camp starts, they go to these, a bunch of hours that they.
Well, if they're CPR first aid every year anyway, that's
Yeah.
an 8-hour day. That's
Yeah.
6 hour day. That'd be part of the training for it. EpiPen is more or less a video that you go through with a tape injector and 10 minutes.
But I don't know that the parents know that the counselors are all trained. I mean, 8 hours of CPR training at Quinnipiac, right? Is where they
No, we bring them in. We run the class.
run in-house. Okay. Well, and then there's other.
We did the camp college.
Okay, do you do that every year? Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think if parents realize the efforts that go into training kids and getting the camp ready, that might be a source of them understanding, we're not just bringing in kids out of the high school to go from, instead of flipping burgers, they're gonna come in here and just watch kids, like they're, you know. They get trained to do this and they do it because they enjoy being around kids. And I think there's a lot of, I'm advocating on what a great program it is that we have for the counselors that work here. And I'm not sure that people realize the level of training that they get to be able to do that. And then if we have on top of that, some, you know, to go through, what they would need to do to administer any kind of medication and follow insulin and stuff like that, I think that would be a more realistic and affordable option, especially when we only have 70 kids a day. Yeah.
But I would love to be able to try to research the extra training, that they provide, right? The perfect world, I think we had an EMT on staff in city council, that'd be a perfect world, right? But maybe that doesn't happen every year. Just because the kids that apply or whoever you have come back, so. You know, extra training, we could look into that. I'm all for Satan out. All for getting all the kids in here. So that's our motto, right? Getting everyone in here. It's part of the town there. Pay their taxes here, let's try to help get them in. So if that helps, then we should try to look into that, but I don't know if the one person who gets paid $60 an hour to be here for 40 hours a week is the right option, right? It's an option, certainly an option.
So I know Amber Sherber at the high school, she's a science teacher at the high school, she does all of our first aid CPR training for coaches.
She's a nurse.
Right, she's also, yeah.
She's an RN.
Yes, and we have students that have graduated from Saybrook or from college who are already registered, EMTs. Like we got James John's daughter is an EMT, like there's probably resources out there that she may know of, kids who are certified EMTs that are not nurses, but they've done all the training and she's going to school to be a nurse, so we have kids that are going to school to be nurses that are EMTs that maybe would want some part-time summer money. And she said, all right, maybe Amber would have a list of people that she's trained and worked with that maybe aren't nurses, but they're trained EMTs that are in college for nursing. That would be the perfect fit. I don't know, just another option with them.
And I'd kind of be curious to see, you will say, in 5 years, in the last 5 years, and how many kids have turned out because of a medical problem? Fine.
I would say that I've never had a parent call me and say.
Or even ask,
No.
they haven't called me.
That's no one's called me. The only issues we've had are there have been a couple of kids we've had to have aides in the school. We've asked the school for an aide, and then be a one-on-one for that child. That's the only additional things that we go for our camp, but no one's ever said, I want to be at that camp and you have to. Provide care for,
Will you?
yeah, and I've said no, that's.
I
I
also,
feel like you would try your best.
Sorry.
Didn't happen.
Could, I mean, certain things you would have to say no to that, you just don't provide, you won't have that.
So I think we still have some knowledge to get to. I like Ray's idea. If you can, something like that for the other.
Yeah, I'd love to see what their extra training was.
Yeah. And
Some of the
I'd
other
like to
license, yeah.
find out more, of what the body is doing, perhaps.
yeah, Tony's gonna be happy to talk to Ray,
Yeah,
you know.
okay, to find out about that. To be fair, I allowed other people to come in our discussion, so I see this gentleman way over here, which is kind of hard through our own commissioners, but please, feel free.
And I apologize, I'm here for something else and just to see. I'm Chris Bird, I'm a resident of Old Saybrook. I work at Saybrook Point Resort and Marina. I have a type 1 son. So I'm a nurse for a wife. And so I've got a little bit of background on it. An EMT cannot administer insulin. They can administer glucose to save the child, but they can't, like an EpiPen, but they cannot administer that dosage. It's very different if the child has a pump versus if they're doing injections. So second, you don't have a nurse here, you're excluding anyone who needs injections. Not saying that's the right answer or wrong answer, I'm giving information. As a business person, I go back and I say, what makes business sense? if you have 120 people who want to be in here every single day and you're capping it at 85, why would you spend more money? When they're already beating down the door. If you want to open the population up, so every day we have 85 people, again, this is the capitalist way of looking at it, the way I look at programs in business, then are you gonna get 10 more people and get to 75, and is that gonna offset your cost of it? So those are the pieces. I think having a counselor that's an EMT, that's amazing, right? If you can get it, why wouldn't you, right? Absolutely. But it won't solve, I'm sorry, this woman, her issue today. And again, it's one child that's supposedly gonna get you 3 more cameras. Thank you.
Thanks, Brady.
So I think, we still have our work ahead of us, so I'd like to get some more information, the motion, discussion going. But thank you, you've done. Thank you both for your. Yeah.
Think about more things on, that's all.
We do, and there's a lot of, I mean, like, if we're gonna hire someone for 40 hours a week, then what do we do for insurance, what do we do for pension, what do we do for? All right,
Do you have to have any HR approval to hire, to put a nurse on payroll? Who would have to approve that with the town? You can do that, fine.
okay,
It's not an hour. Yeah, an hour in the budget.
all right, well, thank you, this is a good discussion. Moving on then to old business, all parks review.
Oh, that's me.
Yes, it is. It's been a while, Ray, but yes, it is.
Parks were very busy this past week. We had, if anyone went to the beach or close to the beach or down to Florida at all this past weekend, it was uphill all the way, so we had a really good weekend, that way, but it was very busy, but parks doing well, so.
How was the cleanup after the holiday? I didn't get a
Pretty
chance to
good,
go
this
there in
year.
the morning.
It's actually pretty good. The staff is really good. Regardless of picking up, it's the day after, it's perfect storm, right?
Yep,
Beginning of June was awful with weather-wise. 4th of July was on a Friday, and that from Thursday to Sunday was 90 degrees and beautiful, so perfect storm. But yeah, it all worked out well, so it helps, we shut the gate every night at Harvey's at 9 o'clock-ish. 4th of July, we let it slide to like 10:30. But that helps a lot. It does.
so I didn't think there was that many fireworks as opposed to previous years. I mean, there was a lot, but not, you can measure
It
it.
was just crazy. Yeah, that's why.
Yeah, there were a lot of bangers, but. Okay, moving on to our strategic plan of parks discussion. I think we pretty much hit it with our other one, so, all right.
So just to follow up, so you're gonna then talk to Jacobson then and.
Yeah, I'll tell
tell
you what's
them
going
you're
on.
okay with that,
Yeah.
and then-
Mhm. Sure.
Sorry.
All right, next one, Saybrook Point discussion.
So I don't know if you guys know, but Chris is the general
Hello,
manager at
Chris.
Saybrook Point Inn, so I'm sure he wanted to chime in on that, but as you've known, from last meeting, I did put up our A-frames for park patrons only to park at the park. I think it does well for the first couple of days, and then a sign like any other sign. Have to buy it, but, I will say this, Chris and I have talked in the past several times. Chris did us a huge favor this past spring with an event that we overbooked in our pavilion, and he was able to accommodate it in his facility, thank God. It was been a bad day, but, Chris and I do talk about parking down there, we have in the past, so. I'm not sure why you're here, if you want to talk on this agenda item, or if you had something else, or, yeah, that's all.
I think that's exactly it, is the partnership between the two, making sure, for me, when I know it's gonna be really bad, I'm constantly reaching out. But the other thing I want everyone to know is that our associates are instructed to park on the other side of the miniature golf, which has resulted in a couple of injuries because of the potholes and the lighting, and so that is what that is, but we do enforce that as much as we possibly can. On the other side, if you're asking me as the general manager, nobody wants to hear it, but we don't chase anybody off our parking lot that's using it on the other side to go across the causeway, right? And that does impact our parking. So at any time, you can have 10 or 15 cars. So if I didn't have those, I could have 10 or 15 more employee cars on the ground. Again, that's more of a tit for tat, but I just want everybody to be aware that we're trying to work on this together. As somebody who's been in the community for 3 years and coming from a business side of it, my comment is, what do we do to fix it? Right? We know it's an issue, it's not changing. So what do we do to help increase the parking? We do not have a single spot that we can put on our lot, not a single spot. But what can we do? There's space over there. To work on paving it, do we need to put parallel parking spaces in? What is the solution? Because it's not going away. And if Doc and Dime were there, we'd be in a much harder spot, right? We, as having 225 employees in season, provide a lot of tax dollars, provide a lot of enjoyment, and that's something that, you know, I don't want to sit and rest my laurels on, but I want to make sure everybody understands the good, the bad, and the ugly. And know that we understand the good, the bad, and the ugly, and we want to work on a solution and work together because it's all over. And the last part of it is public parking. At the end of the day, it is public parking.
Well, first of all, thank you for coming. And you probably, will be seeing Jane and I, because we had, agreed to meet with you.
That'd be
to
great.
Talk about this.
I would love it.
And, so we'll get together.
Yeah, I'm very solution oriented.
Thank you for saying that, 'cause that's, these are my views. Having been in business for so many years myself. But there is no easy answer, we know this, all right? But really, the parking is not just public parking, it's park parking. So this is the Saybrook Point Park. Parking. And that is a hard thing to enforce itself. So I appreciate you saying that, you know, maybe you can come up with an idea or try some things to see how much we can mitigate some of the problems that we're having. And I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be parking for people who want to walk the causeway and like keep going all the way around. I'm one of them. I'm a photographer myself, and you will see me often with a 600mm lens just walking around, but we still have to get together and figure out how we can make this happen, how we can enforce and before I say anything more, I want to say that I know many of your employees personally. Many of them are what I would consider my fishing community on their time off.
There you go.
All hours of the day and night, whether it be midnight or 6 in the morning. I'm one of the people that, when we first started out, they called me the commish, and then they called me Ray's boss, and now they just call me Susan. But it is basically your employees that, you know, just take that first parking area, and it does harm our ability to offer services in this town. So thank you for coming, and we'll be talking much, I'm sure. And perhaps even bringing in maybe someone from the police department who's better equipped at knowledge of parking and what's available or what different things we can do.
Chris, I have one question that
Yeah.
you don't really ever address, so I was my phone was, what do you, how many charters are out of there? Charter boats and how many, I mean, obviously they charter, sure,
Yeah.
what's their, like, you have a regulation for them for their,
You know, I don't. What I would say to you, nor do we, and let's just be open and candid, that's the way I am. It is what it is. If it's good, it's bad. Let's all know and be on the same page. Nor do we do it with our fresh salt customer,
Gotcha.
right? We're not saying, hey, don't park in this spot right in front of the pavilion, right?
Right.
I would love for them not to, right? That pavilion's there for a reason and having that close parking. What I will say anecdotally, what I see is they're parking in our marina member parking spots.
I got you.
Because they're getting there early in the morning when those are open and that's where they wanna park, right?
Sure.
And so similarly, I'm not, if I see that, I'm not gonna be, yeah, you know, they're here for that. And so again, it's just what can we do to share it and create more space? It is a daily conversation of getting people to not park there. The servers hate it. That's the one that's the best. It's the food service staff typically there. And the funny thing is if you fill it up, people are gonna drive through, they can't find a parking spot. Where are they gonna go? Somewhere else, right? And so we always encourage them and say, look, it's in your best interest to park further away. And they know that. They know that.
Susan.
Yes.
Is, that area, the former Dock and Dine, that's owned by Mr. Kadama, does he have any? Has he said anything to us or maybe? Saybrook Point Inn in the past as to don't park there, or just kind of takes a hands-off attitude and whatever happens, happens, I guess?
Yeah, that we've been fortunate there.
Honestly, we bring up some safety issues, like it's all of a sudden there's a pit,
Sinkhole, yeah.
sinkhole.
Multiple. I have an associate that's been out over a year because they tripped on one of the pockets out there.
It does the timer on mini golf go off like at 11. So those lights go off. So
Oh,
it's
on
not-
timer, yeah.
Yeah, so it's probably pretty dark once those lights go off. There's no.
And there's one safety light in the back, like,
Right.
for the most part, yeah.
So
And that, we can't put lighting in his parking
No,
lot.
exactly, yeah.
And the road that leads down to it is the right of ways.
Yeah.
There's. One little street.
We just, again, for information, I'm not trying to monopolize, we tell our team that is gonna be there after 9 o'clock to move their cars over. For our bartenders that we know every night are gonna be after 11 o'clock, they park in our parking lot already because we know it's lit. And then the other piece we do is we offer our team, if for some reason somebody didn't move it, we'll drive them either in the golf cart or the van to their parking spot if they feel that they need it. So. But yeah, we're very fortunate that he hasn't given us a cease and desist letter, so don't use my land to park on.
Advertisement, if we do happen to, acquire that property through the town and the park and rec, there will be more parking spaces there that are actually maintained, so I guess. Here I am plugging to say it's in everybody's best interest in the community to get more parking spaces in that open area right now.
Sidewalks.
I'm sure everybody else has their own opinion.
It's an eyesore out there, as we know. You get on the other side of and it's embarrassing.
They're right.
Well, thank you, Chris, I appreciate it.
Thank you, I'm sorry.
Don't
you.
apologize, we appreciate you being.
Was that why you were here? You have something
Yeah.
else? Okay. Just want to make sure that we.
Yeah, we didn't. We weren't knocking you out for any other business, but thank you, we appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
So next on our, old business is the kayak rack discussion, and I was not able to get a hold of, Mr. Murphy, but, hopefully I can do it now. I should be back from vacation and 4th of July is over with, so I'll bring that up. Preserve update?
Nothing, there's been no movement on the
No.
reserve.
Nope. Any other business regarding programs, facilities and personnel? Up.
Have we wrap up our discussion on the peace poll? I
In my
don't
office,
recall the status.
it's actually in my office, so.
Oh.
I'm physically here, so it just needs to be, I was in contact with Rotary, I just asked me on the ground there, they wanted to know when we do that, they wanted to help out with the dedication ceremony. That's all, but I haven't said it, I've been doing something that like.
Public Works is gonna install it.
Yeah. I just want to get together. You and Jane picked out the location, right?
Oh, okay.
Well, I just want to,
Yeah.
I want to
think
go
it's
at one
great,
point in
though.
time to
Yeah.
literally get your exact point where.
Yes.
That's all.
Okay, I'll.
Yeah.
Okay.
What did you decide?
Little flag. Huh?
Where did you decide?
There's like
There's
a
a little knoll out there.
little like mound, it's
Yeah.
like the grassy knoll.
Okay.
I will say, yeah, it's overlooking, no,
Gardner's Landing.
yeah, like, yeah, when you
Yeah.
park there and then you come in. you know, if you walk around the back, so that's by the front, by the water, you walk around the back, there's like a nice bench there, and then there's like this little mat.
Yeah.
Right in the center of that. So it's all shaded, it's very good.
Okay, any other business? No. Well, we're moving right along. Chairman's report, gee, I didn't go anywhere, do anything yet. Director's report,
I have.
liaison's report, we built.
So I have a question, only because I know I
Okay.
had it, but I know a certain someone who did some work for you, and I was wondering, what he was doing that for. He didn't really know, but it came out great, because I saw it.
So I had an
I didn't know
employee
if
of
that's something you could
ours.
Share with him.
I have an employee of ours who is a communication major, graduate. And I had him do a little documentary on our staff. That shows what the staff does at each location in the summer. And it is not officially done yet, and when it is gets done, I was going to show it to you guys as well. There's a, I wanted to edit one more thing on it, but it's a nice little 10-minute.
August?
So, yeah, no, it should be done by, yeah.
Oh,
That's all. It's a nice little, think about some of our staff and at the beaches,
Great idea.
lifeguards,
Like a
bars,
market.
and it's a market too.
great. Anything else? Motion to adjourn?
I motion to adjourn.
Second.
I gotta go. I'm late for something.
All right.